Great story as always, and yeah, if you are here, I will encourage you to go and have a look. But we are underway. The green flag waves for Group 6, and I've got Carrie Morris next to me, and I'm delighted to say we're underway. We've had a bit of a delay, Carrie, but we're up and running. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what we've got in store in this race here, this Group 6, an exciting group as always.
Well, for the start of the race, we see a repeat of yesterday with Bruce Canepa and Ken Epsman and Mike Thurlow in the Greenwood Corvette getting a pretty good start, and it looks like Bruce is out to his usual, oh, look, I can dial up the boost. No, I believe he is in second at the moment, according to our aerial drone.
I also want to reintroduce Thor Johnson, who was here earlier today with Group 2, I believe, right at the beginning of the morning. It feels like the whole, Group 3 it was, right at the start of the morning. It's been a long day, Thor.
It has.
Welcome, though. How are you? Were you supposed to be in this race?
I was. Again, we did the same thing with this that we did this morning. We put my mechanic in it, who drives way better than I do.
Well.
And give them a little bit of fun at the end of the summer.
To say, they've been doing all the work, right?
They've been doing all the work.
There you go.
Well, see, we're at that age now where we believe in riding mechanics. This could be a return to form.
I like that. That's a full circle.
This case, it's driving mechanic.
Yeah.
Speaking of driving, we see, look, Ken Epsman once again is using the grunt of that DeKon Monza and see if he can hold off the Vette.
And guys, this is the early days of IMSA, GT, FIA, Group 4, and so on. But certainly the infant days of IMSA, and a lot of competition, a lot of racing series going on at the time. And you had to fight for drivers and positions, but once the sponsorship was in place, Mr. Bishop doing the job, John Bishop, of course, kind of responsible for making it happen. Once ensconced, it's never gone away. It's up, it's ebbed and flowed like every motor racing series. But IMSA is as strong in 2024, I would argue, that it's ever been.
I would say that it's probably the strongest that it's been, and this is again in my, remember we've gone through, you would have to say that the ALMS to a large degree being IMSA, it followed along the same pattern. But if you wanted to stay purely by the IMSA brand, I'd have to say this has got to go back to the early GTP cars, 962, the Marches, and certainly going back to, although we were at Sears Point Raceway, Sonoma Raceway, if you look at the old events like at Laguna Seca, the Triple Crown, where these were the cars, these were the stars, and I believe to this day that these are still the cars that are most recognized with IMSA.
Great battle here, Ken Epsman and Patrick Byrne. They've been out in action, both of them, already today, in various different cars, but this is a cracking battle already. Thor, we've come to expect this close racing from Historics here.
Yeah, I have one thing to say. I've got to correct you. We're only going to call it Sears Point.
Okay,
all right. Now
that's not a correction. I agree with you. That is not a correction. This is Sears Point, and we're having a lovely time because this, of course, now known as Sonoma Raceway. But back when it opened, back in '68, it was Sears Point Raceway. And it's gone through some iterations, it's gone through some ownership, but it survived, more importantly.
Well, thankfully, we've gotten the word that next February they're going to repave, and boy, it needs it. Between 2 and 3 is horrible, and around 8 is, in fact, that's what made my bottle fire off this morning and soak me.
Well, that's when track. Sorry, go ahead.
Thor, you've driven, as you said, you've had a 924 GTR, and then going into the BMW CSL. Even though that there are 5-6 years in between when those cars were come out, they were both front engine. The 924 being down on power to the CSL. But can you talk about driving the two different? What are the distinctions between the two cars?
Well, for me, one is not turbocharged, and the one that I had was 924 GTR 04, which was built in Florida, and it has, from the turbo to the intake manifolds, 42 inches. So that we laugh about, you have to call in today if you want the boost tomorrow, because it takes quite a while to spool up. Where the BMW, you step on the throttle, instant power. And actually, the power is about, we're pretty close because we dialed a 924 motor down, and the motor that we've got in the BMW has been done by a guy who really knows how to build a motor. So they're both about 350 horsepower. Yeah, it's the cars, driving-wise, I like driving the BMW. It's like going to the grocery store. But the 924, with the almost perfect balance and with the big 935 brakes and the rest, it was so easy to race, except for the boost business. And the deal was you had to commit, put your foot on the throttle and the brake before you turn in to keep that spool up. That's pretty scary.
Well, I'll tell you that you don't have to worry about turbo boost lag with the fight going on between Ken Empsman and the DeKon Monza and Patrick Bryan in that Greenwood Corvette. They were using every bit of grunt and torque that they can get on those two Chevys.
Yeah, it's Thurlow that's out front now, and he's got a good, healthy lead in the 53. As you can see, 6 seconds over Kanepica and Epsman. Epsman, though, in a real battle for third place. And we've got some really great drivers out there. Charles Nürburg in 10th place at the moment. We mentioned Martin Lauber, of course, who's been in action already. Patrick's been in here. Patrick Byrne has been in here to talk about some of the cars as well. But a young man just really pushing hard at the moment. Some great lap times, too, here at Sonoma. Now we've cleaned it up. 6 laps to go as we take a look for the first time at the 55. And that's Chet Taylor in a 74 911 RSR.
I honestly have to say that I never thought I would be sitting in this chair commenting on Charles Nürburg driving a 914.6.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think I've ever seen him.
You know, F1, the 936, his 962. His Audi like that, and he is in basically a car that started life as a Volkswagen.
you did say something about as we're getting a little older.
As we're getting a little older.
And let's not forget, he also drove over 400 miles an hour on the salt flats.
The man is of a very exclusive club and nature.
He really is. Lovely man. Dallas, Texas. He's got his own collection, and I've been very lucky. He's invited me up, so I'm not missing that invite. He said, "Come and have a look," and I said, "I will." There's Rob Fuller in that Datsun 240. And guys, just talk for a little bit. I mean, we've been waxing rhapsodic, and I have really been a bit errant because we haven't got many iterations. But when Japan woke up to the fact that racing in America was a good way to sell cars, they came and they conquered in their own way. And, you know, especially at IMSA level, Datsun's history here in America is second to none, isn't it?
Well, you really have to think, though, that they were smart enough to enlist the help of Pete Brock, which is what put them on the map.
Yeah.
And that eventually opened the door when you look at the Electrodynes, Don Dievendorf, and the rest of then Datsun, then with Nissan Technology. And then what's the end result? Dan Gurney and Toyota.
Yeah. Good point.
You know, we haven't mentioned on, speaking about the Datsuns, though, that the 240Zs, you know, were a heavy mainstay in SCCA and early IMSA competition, you know, and after such later DeKon Monza drivers such as Brad Frizzell, who ran GTU with quite a bit of success in his Datsun 240Z.
We're looking at that wide-bodied Corvette. Doing a hell of a job. Leading the way, Mike Thurlow, in that Greenwood.
We have four.
Body.
I'm sorry. We have 4 laps to go, and I keep wondering, okay, where's Bruce? What's going on here?
He's
I mean,
laying back.
something, you know. But how far back is he laying, Vallejo?
6 seconds.
Pretty close. Pretty close.
Got to get across the bridge quick then.
Yes, he does. Oh, you've been in that traffic.
I was about to say, yeah. I've learned the hard way on the last few days. You got to time it right to get away from that traffic. I hadn't realized how it had gone down to 1 lane. But as you say, Bruce Canepa in second place, 9 seconds the gap. He may not be able to pull it off today, but we'll keep an eye out for him because he's always likely to come good when he wants to.
I'll tell you, speaking of Charles Nürburg, though, I would have to give him as they what is it they do in IndyCar with the most positions moved or gained is Charles Nürburg in the 914.6 is now in 10th overall.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Generally speaking, both of you guys pretty impressed with what you've seen. Yeah, this is a good battle too.
I think that's what he's done. He's gone back to play with those guys.
Yeah,
I heard
maybe.
I've heard a comment in the past that says just because you won doesn't mean the guy behind you didn't let you.
Oh, that's a T-shirt right there. This is the battle for second place. And as you say, Bruce Canepa kind of having a little bit of fun, I think, with the number 20 of Ken Epsman and in the DeKon Monza.
As I said earlier, these two guys have traded positions and racing each other now for decades.
You bet.
And as the Monza now is just getting by in perhaps the most famous turn at Sears Point, Sonoma.
No, you can. Hey, listen, this is an historic event. There's a burger stand just over there that says Sears Point Burgers, or whatever it says. It's one of the food outlets.
Thor, you brought up about the repaving. Boy, you watch that bump into turn one right there, and you go, you can't get repaved soon enough.
Yeah.
You know.
And of course, that makes it relevant. As soon as they repave it, everybody want to set new track records and so on and so forth. So yeah, always the way.
It's mostly between 2 and 3. It's rutting.
Right.
You know, it feels like you're running across railroad tracks or rails.
That's no
fun.
fun.
The same thing around 8. It's just, it needs to be done, and thank goodness they're going to.
Yeah, that's no fun in a race car. But every track goes through that sort of time where it's getting a bit worn, a bit wet, a bit weathered.
Laguna this last year.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And since they've redone that, everybody is waxing rhapsodic about new lap records. I saw the Moto America guys, the two-wheel guys, just going, "Oh, it's so good now," you know, all that sort of stuff. But it is good facelift.
Well, in the case of Laguna, it also brought for turn 4 a whole new approach that you absolutely have to get that one right.
Yeah. Now, this is going to get interesting. We're watching the battle for second place, but they've got traffic. So they've got to kind of tiptoe through. And I think that's a skill that is not often talked about in racing, is how to deal with traffic and understand that you're racing against suddenly not your opponent, but a guy who perhaps just isn't going as fast as you.
Oh, there we go.
They're playing.
They're playing,
right.
But it's good playing.
Yeah, it is.
Canepa versus Epsman once again, right? Yeah, you're talking about traffic. Just a quick short story. J.J. Lato, who had done such a great job in the BMW LMR, when he later was driving in GT in the BMW, and I asked him, "What's the difference?" And he said, "Before it was traffic. Now I am traffic."
That's a good line.
It must be pointed out that in this particular grid too, there are some. The disparity in speed is quite large.
Yeah.
There's some very fast cars out there.
Well, you're taking, it's a big decade, 68 to 78. There was a lot of innovation and advancement in that time alone. You take 10 years in motor racing, that's an eternity.
These days take 10 weeks.
Yeah, no shit. So their little battle continues. 2 laps to go, and back goes the number 12. As Bruce Canepa picks up the lead, and now Byrne down in 3rd place in the 40.
Oh, they're
Webster
not done yet.
In 4th. Yeah, they're not done by any means. Webster in 4th. Rob Fuller in 5th place at the moment in the Datsun 240 that we saw earlier. Chet Taylor in 6th place in the Porsche 911 RSR. And Lauber now in 7th.
And Charles Nuremberg is now running in a fine 9th.
There you go. Richie Goldsmith's had a busy weekend. He's down in 11th at the moment.
They're going to swap again.
And Thor, I don't know how you do it. You sat here, but you're still in 13th. Pretty impressive. They haven't taken you off the leaderboard, or i.e. off the timings, which is good.
I tell you, it's amazing what you can do with remote control. These days.
So, come on, who's your money on out of these 3?
Wow. On the final lap, I'd have to say Bruce, just purely because Bruce being Bruce is going to be awfully tough to give up that 2nd spot.
Fair comment. Who needs a number 11 when you got 2 boots?
Exactly. And Jimmy Dean sponsorship.
Oh, yeah. Bit of sausage sponsorship. I love that CSL as well.
That number 11 is Martin Lauber's car, but he's not driving it today. He's driving one of the Formula One cars.
Of course, yeah. He was out earlier in that last session, yeah. So, final lap of this, our Group 6 feature race. The beginnings of IMSA GT, AAGT. What was AAGT? American?
All-American
GT.
GT. That was what gave us the DeKons.
Ah, right. Here we go then. The battle for the lead then between the 12 and the 20. Bruce Canepa and Ken Epsman doing it in style here at Sonoma.
Look how much the Greenwood vet knows how to slide, doesn't it?
Certainly does. Time running out though, and it's going to be another Turn 11 classic. But there's traffic to play with this as well. Now, can they use it? No room on the inside, sir.
As Bruce slams the door shut on Kenny Epsman.
And it's going to be Bruce to the line by the looks of things. Out goes the checkered flag and across they come. And it is the 12 of Bruce Canepa in the 1979 Porsche 935. Wins the race. Ken Epsman in the DeKon Monza from 1976 takes second. And the 77 Greenwood Corvette of Patrick Byrne taking third place. Ransom Webster coming across the line now in fourth. Rob Fuller fifth. Ransom Webster coming across the fourth. Yeah, Rob Fuller fifth. Then Chet Taylor in sixth. Martin Lauber got up to seventh in the end. And Steve Walker just sneaking through on Charles Neerberg by the looks of it at the end. And Neerberg in ninth position, and William Lyon rounding out the top 10.